there's a chance. There's a chance that I won't be able to be here next week, and I asked because I'll be on the flight. But so I asked Yoav and Rav Jair and Moshe David to switch me, but they're supposed to be on the air too. All three of us, the flying rabbis. So I asked my father, and he probably, if I won't be able to do it, then my father will do the shiur next week. But there will be a shiur, hopefully. And the shiur today we'll talk about. Here we have the instructions, Rebecca. When you go into the channel, from looking at the link, it just says there are no videos uploaded. Okay, so we'll look into it, and we'll fix it for next time. So today we're going to talk about the Birkat Hamazon and Zimun. Two very important aspects. We're not able to cover all halachic details of all Brachot. Also last time there are different things that we can't touch everything, but we do, I think, give a nice cover. So let's start directly and go to Birkat Hamazon. Great. So I added one thing that I didn't touch the last time. So the two first ones I added that are not regarding Birkat Hamazon. It's about Netilat Yadayim that is also connected to the Brachot. So I just want to finish with these. So let's start with them. It's quite a weird tradition we have doing Netilat Yadayim. Why do you say it's weird? Because in general, the idea of Netilat Yadayim is connected to Tum'ah and Tahara. Though there are special words in Hebrew that don't translate well in the Nordic languages and to English. You have the word tahor is pure in English, or rein in Danish, probably also Norwegian. Yes, correct me if I'm wrong. Norwegian, Swedish is probably the same. Rein, and but then when you come to say tameh, then the word is impure or urein, which is not the same as tameh, because the tameh is a different word. It doesn't say lo tahor, unpure. It says tameh. It's a word of itself, and it's very hard to, especially in the Bible. I find it very hard because I work with translating. The Bible to Danish, and it's so many times the word tameh is used in different both practical and spiritual aspects, and just being unclean is not enough. Urein, so it is quite a difficult thing. But the reason it's a weird tradition we have is because in general, all the rules of Tum'ah and Tahara, of purity and impure, almost all of them don't exist anymore. Because and the reason is because we are all impure in the highest level of being impure. We are all what we call tmimit, being impure with death, impurity, which is the highest level of impurity, because we were born like that. The second we were born, as soon as someone touched us, we got that impurity. So there's no way to get cured from that impurity, which is the highest one, that tum'ah, until we'll have a temple and we'll have a paraduma and all of that. And that's why almost all the rules that fill quite a lot in the Torah doesn't exist anymore. They only exist two places in practically, in Netilat Yadayim, and what is the second one?
Maybe the mikveh.
Yeah, the nida, of course. The mikveh, the way to get impure, but with the female with the menstruation, that tum'ah, because it's not only connected to worshiping, it's also connected to the sexual relations between men and women. Then it still exists because it had a different aspect. But even though a woman goes into the mikvah, she's not pure, because she's not pure from the tum'at met, which is a higher level of impurity. but we still keep that aspect in a matter of the relations. So what is this? This washing the hands? That's start. We do Netilat Yadayim many times, right? We do Netilat Yadayim after we've been in the bathroom. We do Netilat Yadayim before eating. We do Netilat Yadayim before going to synagogue, before praying. So there are many different places we do this Netilat Yadayim. But as I say, it's mainly symbolically because it doesn't pure us. It rinses us a bit. And the Talmud says, I'll read the first one. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, sanctify yourself. This refers to washing of the hands before the meal. V'yitem kedoshim, you should be holy. V'yitkadishtem v'yitem kedoshim. This is the phrase from the Torah. This refers to washing the hand before the meal. Now, when you do that, you have to be. It's a funny thing, but you have to be clean. The hands have to be clean before you wash your hands. This is something when I'm in the kindergarten and we play as if we go to do Netilat Yadayim. It will take too much time to do it. So I tell them before we do Netilat Yadayim, say, wait. Did you wash your hands before? Show me your clean hands. Okay, now we can do Netilat Yadayim. To underline that Netilat Yadayim is not cleaning our hands. It's Netilat Yadayim. It's a spiritual thing. Rumina asks, what did they do under the temple when? No, but at the temple time, they were pure. You had the purity, so you were pure when you got born. Now, because none of us could get pure, then automatically everyone are unpure. But it's a big it's another aspect. So let's put aside. It was more to prepare. So this is something where we do the Netilat Yadayim that you all know from before eating. We do that only before eating bread, which is and yes, you always need to use a cup for symbolic cleaning the hands. It's not enough doing it directly from the water, because it's supposed to be a just like all the thing we do with the tarat, we have something that holds the water. It's a lower level of purity, because it's when you in the Talmud in mikvaot, you probably learn the rules about that when you learn about the rules of mikvah and tahara, that there are different levels of water. The level of water to do the Netilat Yadayim it's one of the lowest levels, when it's the water in just a regular clean water in a cup. But yes, you're supposed to do it with a cup. Now, there are many different rules. One of the important things that let's read the next one, and then we'll talk about the different rules on Netilat Yadayim. You're welcome to read too, Rebecca.
You want me to read the next paragraph?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain where it comes from, Rebecca? The next one. The source.
The source. No, I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, so the source. Yeah. So the source is Shulchan Aruch or Chaim. Okay. Anyone wants to explain what Shulchan Aruch is?
It's a very concrete codification of Jewish law.
Yeah, I would say not the complete one. The codification.
Concrete.
Concrete. Yes. Okay. Good. Because the complete codification, that was the Rambam. This one is a concrete codification. You're very right. Is someone trying to say something? I hear some noise in the background. So it was created by Rabbi Yosef Karo in Tzfat. It's very important to remember Shulchan Aruch. We talk around the years around 1500, and it was after Rambam. It's the second codification work that was done, but very concrete to the thing that practically we do. It doesn't include many rules that exist in the Talmud and Mishnah, but are connected to the temple, for example. And the Shulchan Aruch is also crucial because what happens is that the Jewish writings, halachic writings, Jewish law is before Shulchan Aruch and after Shulchan Aruch. The book of the Rambam is the Yad Chazaka, Mishneh Torah LaRambam, but the book of Rabbi Yosef Karo, as soon as it was written, and with the explanation of the Rema, that also is mentioned here, and we'll talk about it. The Rema, Rabbi Moshe Isherlich from Poland, Germany, from Ashkenaz, he added comments to that book. And as soon as he did it, he was the Ashkenazi rabbi, the most important rabbi of his time. And Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Sephardi rabbi who moved from Spain to Tzfat after they deported the Jews from Spain. So these two rabbis covered basically the whole Jewish world, and from them, after they did it, everyone referred to that book. So all the books that were written afterwards are written on basis of that book, and that's why we separate the books to Rishonim, the first one, and Achronim, the last ones. The last ones are all of those that are after Shulchan Aruch, and there are different. We can say that they have different caliber and. The rabbis from before, the Rishonim, that have more weight, and the rabbis afterwards that have a bit less, because as the Achronim. Although we of course follow always the last one, because their interpretations are the one that we use. That's a bit of background of Shulchan Aruch. Yes, now Rebecca, you can continue to read.
When one comes to eat bread that we bless on it, hamutzi, one should wash their hands, even if one does not know that your hands have any impurity. One should bless al nitilat yadayim, regarding washing of hands, but bread that we do not bless hamutzi on it, for example, little rolls, explanation saturti in another language, or bread that comes as dumplings, explanation bread that is made with sugar, almonds, and nuts, and one does not establish a meal with them. One does not need to wash their hands. Sorry, it's a bit small for me. My eyes are a bit.
No problem, you did very well. So we can see here that you do Netilat Yadayim only before bread, but what is considered bread? That's an interesting discussion. We had a bit of it last time regarding Borei Minei Mizonot, but as long as you don't announce a meal on that bread, then it's not considered bread. And but for other hand, I don't know if any of you ever participated in an event where they served lachmaniot mezonot, like they served bread that is mezonot. Many times they do that in Israel to make it more convenient. But then it's still the main bread, even though it's made more like a cake or challah, like very sweet. It still is a bread, even though it's the mezonot. If you eat it by itself, it's mezonot. But if you eat it in a meal, then it's hamotzi, and then you're supposed to do netilat yadayim regardless. So remember, if any time, I remember I went to Chabad here in Denmark after they had a Brit Milah. And then it was served these lachmaniot of mezonot, and I thought, but why do you do that? It makes people confused because they think they're not supposed to do netilat yadayim because it's mezonot. But if you have a whole meal and they are eating it with all the good food that is served along, then you have to do netilat yadayim. The meal, doing the netilat yadayim is very connected to the meal or to something that is only bread. Okay, so that's a bit on the netilat yadayim. You have different rules. For example, the rule that all of us know that you're not supposed to say anything right after doing netilat yadayim. That's actually not the rule. The rule is not that you're not allowed to say anything. You're actually allowed to say something. If, for example, you sit to the table and you're supposed to get salt, you're allowed to say, "Can you bring the salt?" Because it's connected to eating. So it's not that you're not allowed to say anything to come out of the mouth. From the other side, if you want to say something, I'm sorry, there's a bit noise behind me. If you want to say something and you point with your fingers and do like a and then, but not using the words, it's just as saying something. There's no difference between doing signals and sign language or something like that and talking. That's the same thing. So you can just talk. It's better than to talk and not to make everyone confused and make noise. The idea of not talking is because you're not allowed to make any pause. So you're supposed to be concentrated from the second you did Netilat Yadayim until you ate the bread. I want to go over to Birkat HaMazon because that was the important part of today. Do you have any concrete question regarding Netilat Yadayim? There was someone who asked before.
I was just curious to know, when do you actually say it? Is it when you're having your hands on the water, or do you say it just before, or do you say it after?
There's actually a debate about it, but we say the bracha after because we are, in principle, we are not pure before. So we say the bracha after we put the water. Some will do it while wiping their hands. There are also different traditions about how many times you do. You saw probably people do 7 times and 3 times and 2 times, and some do 1. If your hands are clean, if you just wash your hands, it's enough to do 1 time. If your hands are not so clean, then do this twice. The other traditions are more like spiritual Kabbalistic traditions and I don't know, family tradition that I don't know of. But 2 are definitely enough to all the lechol hadeot would be enough.
Thanks.
Yes, Karina?
No, it was just that question. Thank you.
Great. No problem. Good. So let's go over to the Birkat HaMazon, and we start with the again, the only place where it says about bracha, we mentioned it the first time we started the Brachot, which we say also within Birkat HaMazon. When you have eaten your fill, give thanks to the Lord your God for the good land which He has given you. Now, I thought if you can scroll down, yeah, Mika.
I just wonder about here. It said when you are eaten, you fill. Would you translate it the same way? Because I always understood when you have eaten and you are met, you are satisfied, and then you bless.
Yes.
So it's a little weird, the translation here, right?
Yeah, I know. I understood fill as mit, but I don't know if that's the right understanding. Maybe I automatically read it the same way as in the Hebrew, but it might be wrong.
But that raises the question. That raises the question. I know maybe it's not for you today, but if you eat and you eat only a little and you are still very hungry, so
not only this is the next source I wanted to read.
Okay.
If you can scroll down a bit here, yeah, there's a beautiful saying. It's a midrash from Talmud Brachot. Someone, it's exactly about this point, Michael. That the question is, do you say bracha when you are only when you are met? How do you say met in English?
Satisfied. Full.
Yeah. So yeah, who wants to read this last one? This.
I can read it.
Great, thank you.
Rav Avira taught sometimes. Oi. Is there a very weird echo? No. Rav Avira taught sometimes he said it in the name of Rabbi Ami, and sometimes he said it in the name of Rabbi Asi. The ministry.
Yeah, just remarking. Look at them, how amazing the Talmud is here. They are very specific, saying, who did you hear this from? So it said, Rav Avira taught. Sometimes he taught in the name of Rabbi Ami, sometimes in the name of Rabbi Asi. So maybe he wasn't sure. Either he heard it from both rabbis, or maybe he wasn't sure. He didn't remember exactly who. The Talmud reflects us that sometimes he did the one and sometimes he did the other. It's like a very beautiful story in how, and because we have two traditions, the Talmud brings both of these traditions and tells us that. They don't just say, okay, it doesn't really matter, come on. Is it Rabbi Ami, is it Rabbi Asi? Let's just choose one of them. No, it's just sometimes this time we don't know what's the right answer. Who wanted to taught that? But we know that Rav Jair was the one to give it in the name of another rabbi, which brings to the idea that we're always supposed to quote someone if we heard it from him. That's a very important thing. So that's a side remark. Yes.
The ministering angels said before the Holy One, "Blessed be he, Master of the universe. In your Torah, it is written, who favors no one and takes no bribe." Deuteronomy 10:17. Yet you show favor to Israel. As it is written, the Lord shall show favor to you and give you peace. Numbers.
Which, yes, so this is a very good question. It says, your Torah contradicts itself. It says that, explain that God doesn't prefer anyone, doesn't show any favors. That's one thing that says about God, but somewhere else in Bamidbar, it says that the Lord shall favor Israel. How come you can, if you're not supposed to favor anyone, how can you favor Israel? Well, something's wrong with your Torah. You can't have both. You can't be someone who's doesn't favor anyone and then yet favor someone. So what did God answer?
He replied to them, "And how can I not show favor to Israel, as I wrote for them in the Torah? And you shall eat and be satisfied, and bless the Lord your God." Deuteronomy 8:10. Yet they are exacting with themselves as much as an olive bulk or an egg bulk.
Yes. So he comes here and says, how can the Israelites are so amazing? I only gave them a mitzvah that they're supposed to say bracha when they're satisfied, when they're met. As Michael said, very rightfully pointed in the pasuk. He said only only after you're met, only after you're satisfied, you're supposed to say bracha. And God says, look how amazing the Israelites are. They say a bracha and Birkat Hamazon, even though they ate only as much as an egg bulk, which is quite a lot, or olive bulk, which is a kazait. It's a very small portion. But if it's less than that, then you're not. Then you don't say a bracha. But you can see here that this is something extra that the Jews took upon themselves. Now, don't ask me about the reality of this story. I'm not sure that neither Rav Asi or Rav Ami went up to God and heard this conversation. But the story is very critical because it gives us a direction how great this idea is of saying a bracha after the meal, even though you're not full satisfied. Met, the word met is better. I think satisfied also, like you're happy with it. But saveh. But it's important also regarding something else, because it means that the rule is that you only acquired from the Oraita, like the rule of saying Birkat Hamazon from the Oraita, from the Torah, is only when you're met, is only when you're saveh. But if you're not, it's a rule from Rabbanim, of Rabbanan, Midrabanan. Why is it important? Can anyone explain? Karina, your hand is up. Why is it important?
It's not that I think I can explain what you just asked me.
I know, but I'm just trying you.
Yeah, but my question was just that.
Well, wait with the question. Wait with the question. Just there's a difference, as I said, of the level of the commitment. There's an obligation from the Rabbanan and an obligation from the Oraita. Two different obligations. And now there are practical differences. You can say, okay, why does it matter? You have to do it regardless, and it's right. if it's a rule from the Rabbanan, from the rabbi, you still have to do it. There's no difference regarding that you are obligated. But where is there a difference between these two? Sophie, do you want to try?
Mhm.
Kan du lige gentage spørgsmålet igen?
What's the difference here if it's an obligation from the Rabbanan, from the rabbi, the obligation from the Torah, from the Oraita? Why does it matter to us?
Isn't it when if you're unsure, then you should follow it if it's from the Torah and not if it's from the Rabbanan?
Exactly. Let's say you ate I don't know, half a pita. You ate a small portion, and then after an hour, you suddenly say, wait a second, did I say Birkat Hamazon or not? You're supposed to say Birkat Hamazon regardless when you eat it, but you're not sure if you did or not. Okay, so suddenly you're in a doubt. You don't remember if you did, because you do it automatically, like all of you do. When you eat bread, you do it automatically afterwards, so you're so used to it. And sometimes you suddenly say, oh, wait a second, did I really say it or not? If it was after a big dinner where you had, let's say you had a big lafa with falafel, you're completely full, there was no doubt that you turned met, you were sever, then if you're not sure if you said or not, then you have to say it again. If you are not sure, but you ate only chatzi pita, only a half a pita, and you're not sure if you said it, then you're not supposed to say it. Because it's when you call safek de Rabbanan, they are it is lekula. Safek de Oraita, if it's something you doubt and it's from the Torah, then you have to be strict and say for extra precaution. If it's safek de Rabbanan, then you don't do it. And it's important regarding many rules, so we will use these words again many times. So remember Doraita and the Rabbanan. So here, practically, that rule applies here. Yes, Karina, now we can ask your question.
Thank you. No, but I just wondered, because the question was if he should favor one or not. And then my question is that because the Jews are, what do you say, they bless the food, then of course he will have to favor Israel. Is that that's
a midrash here. Midrash, you have to remember, always take midrash with a small precaution. The midrash comes not to tell why God favor Israel. This midrash, you can imagine that the rabbi stood and tried to explain to the people how important Birkat Hamazon is. And he says, listen, even God favors Israel because Birkat Hamazon is so amazing. You have to read it in a context. It's not because this is the true explanation why it says in Bamidbar that God favors Israel. It actually answers God favors Israel not because anything we do, but only because he promised Abraham. That's it. That the Torah says somewhere else. Like, we don't need to put too much into these words, but it's more the principle that the rabbi shows how important this rule is. This is the way I believe we should read it, and not go so much into this is the true reason why the Israelites are favors. And I'm not even so sure that we are that favored. It's only when we do what we're supposed to do. If we're not, then it's a problem, because he has a lot of focus on us, and that's much harder. Then we pay a much higher price, according to Jewish tradition. Yes, Sophie.
How do I know if I'm not sure if I said it or not? How do I know if it's from Tochaita or Rabbanan in that moment?
You don't. You learn it, and you remember.
Okay.
You remember because we just learned it today, and sometime else later, when you won't be sure, and it will happen, you will write me an SMS and say, "I don't remember. What was it? Is it so?" It's don't worry. You're not. I understand if you won't remember it from right now, but this is that's why we do Veshinanta. I can tell you it's a very. We have here, for example, Michael Gritzman. He asked if he is supposed to come into this shiur or not, and he studied in yeshiva, and he learned these things many times. But even though you learn new things and remember things that you you maybe forgot, even though you have learned it many times. This is right, Michael? Good. So we don't remember. I don't remember all the rules all the time. I can tell very, very secretly that sometimes I even use Google when I get a question because I'm not sure. It's like a unique question, that's something that I didn't happen. I don't remember. I don't remember everything I studied. But it's a matter of practice. So and that's always the main answer to that. Practice and ask when you're not sure. That's also a thing, because then you find out.
So I just want to be sure right now, is this the Rabbanan right now?
No, so I said there are two. If you ate and you became met, Savea, you ate and you had enough, you had a good meal, then it's Doraita. If you only ate a smaller bite of bread, then it's the Rabbanan. Okay. Still, I say you're obligated in both. It's only in a question of doubt. In both cases, you need to say. So what you need to remember for now is not what do I do when I forget. What you need to remember for now, that regardless, you need to say bracha, regardless if it's a big portion or a small portion. If it's a tiny portion, if it's something that you only taste, for example, to see that it's fine, that it's good, that it's really tiny, then you're not supposed to say a bracha. Okay, let's turn back to the previous source that explains a bit how the Birkat Hamazon that you know from today, how it evolved to be what we say. So this is the source. Of course, as almost all our sources with Brachot come from Masechet Brachot, and the Brachot tractate in the Talmud. Yes, who wants to read now? Penila wants to read. No? Someone else?
Yeah. No. Sorry, I'm really bad at reading, so.
No problem. Someone else?
No, I can read.
Okay, great.
Am I? Yes, I'm.
Rav Nachman, yes, from the.
Rav Nachman said, Moses instituted for Israel the first blessing of who feeds all when the manna descended for them. Joshua instituted the blessing of the land when they entered Eretz Israel. David and Solomon instituted the who builds Jerusalem. David instituted on Israel your people and on Jerusalem your city. And Solomon instituted on a great and holy temple. They instituted who is good and does good at Yoni in reference to the slain of Beta.
Yeah, so it's not Yoni, it's Yavne. It's a city of Yavne.
Okay.
You said it in a Danish way of a V. So Yavne, they instituted it, means the rabbis. But you can see here a source saying that again, it's very important because it comes again, the same question of the right and the Rabbanan comes also here. You can see here a principle saying that Moses instituted for Israel the first blessing of who feeds all, Hazane et hakol. If you remember it from the Mocha. And when did he do that? When the manna descended for them. So the idea of he feeds all comes with the manna that already started it. Then Joshua added the blessing of the land. Yes, when they entered Eretz Israel. It's the second blessing, right? Nodelecha al shinchalta lavotenu velanu eretz yes, the second one that we have, it's on the land, saying thank you for the land. And then comes David and King David and King Solomon. They instituted who built Jerusalem. And Bonei Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim. So David instituted on Israel, your people, and on Jerusalem, your city. Why do the Talmud here says that David did this part and King Solomon the next part? Which is weird because it's like only one sentence. It's kind of weird to say that David did the first and Solomon did the second one. But it's most principally because Solomon was the one to build the temple and David was the one to establish the city of Jerusalem. So they bring both these things, the temple and Jerusalem. So let's say we shouldn't take it as an historical statement of the Talmud, that King Solomon added these two words, and King David wrote the first words. But again, in most principle, it comes from that time. There was a question. Okay, I'll go back to your question later. So this is a principle now, and then it adds, they instituted. They is a rabbis. Why is it important? It's from the same reason from before. They instituted who is good and does good. Hatovu meitiv. This is the one, the bracha that comes after Uvnei Yerushalayim. I don't know if you remember the bracha Birkat Hamazon. I hope you do. And if not, it's about time that you start saying it more regularly. So after Uvnei Yerushalayim, you have the Birkat Hatov Meitiv. Hu heitivu meitivu yetiv lanu v'lanu g'menu yigmenu la'at. I'm trying to wake up your memories from that bracha. And the rabbi instituted that after what happened in Yavne, the slaying of Beitar. It was a tragic moment, and the rabbis explained how miraculously the bodies of those who were slain weren't. They were be able to bring them to the grave, and they didn't stink the way they should. So it was quite a miracle that happened in Yavne, and they said we still have God with us. It was a time after the ruining of the temple. People lost all hope, and then they instituted the Tovim HaMeitiv to still see God's good deeds in their life, even though so much happened to the Jewish people at that time. But why is it important regarding what we said before? Because King Solomon, King David, Joshua, and Moses, this is what we call from the Mikra, from the Torah, or after the Torah, but it's all from the Bible. So the level of commitment is from the Oraita. The last one of the rabbis is from the Rabbanan, which means, again, if we have a special situation, for example, let's say you don't have time to say all Birkat Hamazon, then you can say only the Birkat Hamazon from the Torah, and drop the added part from the Rabbanan, because it's more critical to say from the one from the Torah. So that can be an example. Then you can say the rest later, for example. Let's see if the second one is also. Yes, let's read also the. Let's read also the next one. Karina, you want to continue?
Yeah, should I continue? The sages taught in the Tosefta, from where is it derived that grace after meals as is from the Torah, as it is stated, and you shall eat and be satisfied, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land that he has given you. And you shall bless, that is the blessing of who feeds all. The Lord your God,
the one you said before.
The Lord your God, that is the Zimun blessing. For the land, that is the blessing of the land. Good, that is who builds Jerusalem. And it also says, this is good mountain and Lebanon. That he gave
Jerusalem
you.
is called good somewhere. So it says, this is the word good in the Pasuk refers to Jerusalem.
That he gave you, that is who is good and does good.
Yeah. So this is a different saying that goes to the same content of the Birkat Hamazon, and it gives another source coming from the pasuk, an interpretation of the verse of V'achata v'savata u'berachta et Hashem Elohecha al ha'aretz tova asher natan lach. So and that is not, but I don't want to go into the details. One important part is what we mentioned here in the middle. The Lord your God, that is the Zimun blessing. What is the Zimun blessing?
I don't know.
Yes. What is Zimun?
That is when you are starting the Birkat Hamazon. Before.
Yes, before, exactly. This is Zimun is actually an invitation, like Hazmana. It's an invitation to say Birkat Hamazon. But the invitation to bless the God, we say, Rabotai nevarech, or Chaverai nevarech, Havlan v'navrich le'ela malka ila'a kadisha. You have many different, or Rabbi Samir will mention, it used to be in Yiddish, because you could do it in every language. But all these things were invitation to say the blessing, and this is Zimun. And this is important because there are some practical rules around the Zimun. If it's invitation, it means you don't say it when you're by yourself, right? Because you don't invite yourself to say bracha. You only invite other people. So when it's a community, and that's why also Rabbi, and when you say just the word Rabbi, it means Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the one who edited the Mishnah. Rabbi said it is not necessary, and you shall eat and be satisfied, and you shall bless. That is a blessing of who feeds all. However, the Zimun blessing is not from this, but from a whole different place. From praise God with me, and we will exalt His name together. Gadelu, it's the same one we say in the synagogue. Gadlu la'Adonai iti u'neromema shemo yachdav. We say when we take the Torah out of the ark and go to do the Torah reading, and Rabbi says this is a phrase we learn from doing Zimun, and the word Gadlu is in Fleetel. It's how do you say it in English?
Plural.
Plural, right? Thank you. It's plural. It's not Gadlu Hashem u'neromah shemo yachdav. We'll be together praising God, and this is a place where Zimun comes from. There were. Let's take a few questions about the Birkat Hamazon, then we can go to the Zimun. Arad asked if you ate and blessed, and then a short while afterward you ate again. If you didn't think of the next eating, if you already ate and blessed and said blessing, then you have to say to eat and say blessing again. If it's part of the same eating, then you just say one Birkat Hamazon. But if you go and I don't know, Nash in you're at work, and you go to the kitchen, have one slice of bread, say bracha in Birkat Hamazon, even though you're not full yet. Then you have another meeting, and you will go again and eat another piece of bread that's not part of one eating. Then you're supposed to say a bracha on each and every one of them. Let's say I know people who would avoid eating because they don't want to say Birkat Hamazon. So take it very, very serious. They will only say Birkat Hamazon when it's needed, and will avoid doing the other parts. But you can read all these like small details of Brachot. It's also very clear in the book Rav Stein is about when you say it, when you don't say it. Let's go over to Zimun. I bring I think an interesting question here. As we start, let's start from the Mishnah that states the idea of Zimun and when do you say it. I think Monica and Katu wanted to read before, right?
Is it the Talmud Arachin?
No, Mishnah Brachot.
The Mishnah Brachot. If three people eat together, they are obligated to convene, to say the blessing after a meal. Women, slaves, and children, one cannot convene with them. How much is needed to be eaten in order to convene? At least an olive. Rabbi Yehuda says at least an egg. Okay, so the convene is this Zimun, we said, that they are supposed to gather together to say Birkat Hamazon. And the Mishnah comes and says something very special, very simple. If three people eat together, they're obligated to convene, to do it as a group. If you two, you don't do it. Everyone says it themselves. But if you're three, 4, 5, or more, then you convene. In principle, you can also go to two groups. If you have like 6 people and some have to go, so you can have 3 and 3. But if you're 10, you again need to do it together, because when you're 10, you add one word. There's something special doing it as a minyan, as 10 in the Zimun.
But here the Mishnah comes in very clearly and says that women, slaves, and children, one cannot convene with them. So they're not forming a zimun in the same way. It's only men that are over the age of 13. Now, you could think that will be unfortunately or fortunately, it's not as simple as that, because the Talmud somewhere else says something different. And what does it say in Talmud Arachim? You can continue.
Everyone is obligated to form a zimun. What is added? To add women and slaves. As it is taught, women form a zimun for themselves and slaves form a zimun for themselves.
Okay, so now it becomes interesting, because it was as if when we read the first one, we would think that you're not supposed to, that it's only men are obligated to do zimun. But here the Talmud comes and specifies and says, no, everyone is obligated to form a zimun. Why the word everyone? To add women and slaves. If someone thought that they are accepted, they're not supposed to say zimun. No, women form a zimun for themselves and slaves form a zimun for themselves. So 3 men are zimun, but also 3 women are zimun and 3 slaves are zimun. The thing that the Mishnah says that you don't mix them together. So if you sit to a meal, and there are 3 women and 2 men, what do we do?
Saying for ourselves.
What, Sophie?
We're saying for ourselves. We're not saying it together.
But if there are 3 women,
we say it together.
So even though you have 2 men and 3 women, the women then are supposed to say a zimun. Okay, so it's not only men. I know many times you were used to that it's only men saying zimun, but it's not. Though the rabbis they have a discussion if the women have to do zimun or they can form a zimun, and that's a rabbinic discussion. The most of the rabbis said that it's they are allowed to, but they don't have to, and that's an important distinction. That it's a reshut, so they're allowed to do a zimun, but they don't have to. But there are some great rabbis say that women have to do a zimun. If there are 3, it's a discussion. Shulchan Aruch, I didn't find it with the translation. I'm sorry that I didn't manage to find the translation myself. It says Nashim mizamnot le'atzmam reshut. Women do a zimun for themselves as a group. They are allowed to, reshut, it's not obligation. אבל כשאוכלות עם האנשים, חייבות ויוצאות בזימון שלנו. If they eat with men, they have to join the zimun, not informing enough of 3, but they have to answer. So they are part, the women are part. It's very interesting. But even though you don't count them to the 3, they are still a part of the zimun, and they have to say, and they have to answer. Haggah, and this is the interesting part. Why? Even though they don't understand. The rabbi discussed if women are obligated in the zimun and Birkat Hamazon, and there were discussions. Some say they had to, and some say they didn't have to. And there someone said that maybe they don't have to because they're not circumcised. Because in the Birkat Hamazon it says the covenant that you sealed in our flesh. So some say that because of that, because women are not circumcised, then it's only reshut, they don't have to say it. Some say they don't have to say it because women are not used to know Birkat Hamazon. Because women were not reading at that time. For example, it says Rosh Mordechai Rashi say that women were not knowledgeable. But as we know, it's a good example saying Rashi. Rashi's daughters were very great Talmidot Chachamim, and they even used to put tefillin every day. So Rashi explained that it's only if they don't know how to say that they're not obligated. But if they know how to say that they are obligated. And Mishnah Berurah gives exactly the same explanation, that the reason that the rabbi didn't want to make them obligated because it's not very regular that women are women who are pkiot with the kata zimun, that they're used to it, that they know how to do it, and because of that, the rabbis didn't add it. Now today, luckily, we do have print, and I can't say in any way that men knows the Birkat Hamazon better than women. There's no doubt that that reason disappears. Then comes a great question. Then if that's the reason why they're not allowed to be together to create a zimun together, then why do we still do not mix the zimun of men and women? And some say it's because of tzniut, of modesty. That's the automatic answer of almost of most of rabbis will be automatically. But it's also very hard to say that it's because of modesty, because in our time we sit together in the table with it's not that the women sit separately so they sit already together. The modesty, if there was a modesty problem, is in saying zimu, in eating, in forming a group, then the problem was coming to eat together. But if this is the reality of our world, then you can't say that that's the reason. That's why one of the greatest, I think one of the most unique rabbis in Israel, Rav Gigi, the head of Yeshivat Har Etzion, he signed a halachic answer that he didn't write. One of his students wrote it, that said that actually within the family, because there's no question of modesty, and then you're supposed to mix. And if you are then man and woman, that but only if it's within the family, but then no one will claim that it's you have a modesty problem. If it's within the family, then you can count to 3 and mixing man and woman. And I say a few rabbis agree to that. I'll say very carefully that I agree with that, but my brother and Moshe David, they don't follow that ruling. So it's I'm honest here. This is something that can go to different directions. But what we do at home, we mix only when it's only the family, but not when it's with the guests. Then we do only if there are 3 men or 3 women. But again, if you have 3 women, then you do say azimun. It's only a question if you have 2 and 1 or 2 and 2, for example. Sophie, you had a question? Yeah.
So why is it that we can be mixed with other prayers, but not especially this one?
But Brachot is not a prayer. It's the rules of the prayers are connected to synagogue and to place of worship. It's a completely different rule. So we'll take that. You open a whole other. This is bracha. Bracha is not prayer.
So what I mean, why is it there's some blessings we can say together, and some we cannot?
I'll say that's the difference between blessing and prayers. It's a complete different ball game. It's not bracha is bracha, prayer is prayer. It's 2 different ball games.
But Birkat Hamazon, that is a blessing, right?
Yes, exactly.
So let's say Kiddush is also a blessing, but why can we say Kiddush together but not Birkat Hamazon?
No, you can't say it together. No one said you can't say it together. So you say it together. The opposite. The Talmud underlined, and the Shulchan Aruch underlined that you have to say it together. If there are women at the table, they have to answer. It's only the question of forming a zimun. These 3 people who say Rabotai Nevarech in the start of before the blessing, the invitation to the blessing, where you bless God, that only happens if you have the 3, at least 3 men that are over bar mitzvah or 3 women that are over bar mitzvah, the bat mitzvah. So that's it's only regarding zimun we're talking. The blessing itself, it's mixed. That's not.
Okay.
Okay. So that's it for today. There's probably more questions and things, but and we'll never finish all of them. If you have some questions, you can also add start with them next time. Read again the chapter that we sent. I already have the books in the community center, so those from Denmark can come and take it, and to Malmo we will send it to you. Rav Moshe David will coordinate with you. Norway, I know they have their own. They ordered them, and if we can do something for the Finns, we can coordinate that too. So thank you for today, and have a great Shavuot Tov, and it was really, really great seeing you.